Good morning, good evening, whatever time of day it is for you. Welcome to this thing that I do called Thor's Entertainment. I am Thor, and today I am doing another Fatal Friday video. Fatal Friday is a series I do where I take main roster and cameo fighting characters from Mortal Kombat 1, and I play them in the Kombat League in order to try earning unique finishers for that character. And by unique finishers, I mean brutalities, fatalities, or just, any other unique way of ending the fight. The one I am highlighting in this video belongs to Nitara. I would say it is her hardest brutality to get. Actually, that is a bit of an understatement. Now, I cannot account for every single character on the roster because I have not played all of them yet, but I would say this brutality is the hardest, if not one of the hardest brutalities to get. The brutality I am referencing is Taste of Blood. And it is going to take me a second to explain why this brutality was so difficult. So this will be a somewhat longer than usual intro and probably will be bleeding into the fight itself, but that's alright. But I feel like I would not be doing this brutality or this video justice if I did not explain the amount of crap that had to go just right for me to get this brutality. So I will start with just describing how you get this brutality. Now, the normal special attack that you need to do in order to get this brutality to even possibly activate is the Bloody Bolt attack. Now, the simplest requirement for the brutality besides doing that attack is that you have to hold down the 3 button whenever it hits. But you also need to be at jumping distance away from the enemy as this is a projectile. But in order to do the Bloody Bolt attack, you must also first do the Blood Sacrifice special move that has a little bit of a timer on it. You only have a brief moment, but whenever the Blood Sacrifice is active, all of Nitara's special attacks tend to get a little bit of extra benefits to them. And Bloody Bolt happens to be the only special attack that Nitara can only do whenever Blood Sacrifice is active. It's not available under any other circumstance. There's just no normal version of it. So you only have a small window of time before this Blood Sacrifice runs out. So on top of needing to be at jumping distance, that projectile, its startup takes forever. It is very reactable, so it is very difficult to hit anyone with it. And even if you do hit someone with it, more often than not, they are moving around and they move out of jumping distance range. So even if you do hit them, you may not necessarily get the brutality. And yeah, this projectile just really sucks because of how slow it is. It's like one of the worst projectiles in the game. And because of all the conditions and needing to have the Blood Sacrifice active in order to do the projectile, and because of how slow the projectile is, there really isn't a way to combo into it. Well, that's not entirely true, but I'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, if I just tried doing the attack by itself, I don't think that I would ever get the brutality. It's definitely not impossible, but a lot of things have to line up just right for it to happen, and there is absolutely no tactic to it if you approach it that way. You're just really hoping that someone just doesn't block at just the right distance. So going back to my comment earlier that you cannot combo into it easily, there is technically a way to combo into it. The only solution that I could come up with for getting this brutality was maybe I could freeze somebody with either Frost or Subzero as the cameo, and then I could do the Bloody Bolt attack with them at just the right distance and not being able to move, so it automatically is guaranteed to land. So yeah, you freeze them and then you hit them. That's a 2-hit combo, that counts. Now, I use Subzero for the majority of my Nitara brutality and fatality videos, and what I found was he was not a good fit for trying to get this brutality specifically. Whenever you use Subzero to freeze somebody, you basically have to be standing right next to them, or the freezing attack is not going to land. Now, even if I had Blood Sacrifice already active, I don't know that I would be able to get into jumping distance away from the enemy in time before they thawed out. So I don't think the Bloody Bolt attack would really hit them when they were still frozen, and they're probably just going to block it. I suppose it's not impossible to land it that way, but I feel like the person I'd be fighting would just block it or move out of the way, get in the wrong distance to where I couldn't land the brutality, so Subzero just really didn't feel like a good fit. So that left me with the other option, Frost. That is the cameo fighter that I did end up using in order to get this brutality, and with her I kind of did have a tactic for it. It was super simple. But even though it was simple, there were a lot of things that had to line up just right in order for me to get the brutality. First thing to point out is that the Bloody Bolt does not do an amazing amount of damage. I mean, it's not bad, you can definitely defeat someone using it if you land it, but just like with any projectile, you're basically going to need the enemy to be already nearly dead in order to deal a killing blow against them. But yeah, I would need to have an already weak enemy. And then what I found was that if I were to freeze somebody with Frost, I would not have enough time to do a blood sacrifice and then the bloody bolts before they thawed out. So what I would have to do is activate blood sacrifice, and then immediately afterwards I'd have to throw the Frost freeze out at the enemy and just really hope that it landed. Now the reason Frost freezing the enemy works and Sub-Zero doesn't, that is because Frost can freeze an enemy from full screen. So whenever you throw out Frost with a blood sacrifice active, whenever you throw out the freeze from Frost, you can theoretically hit the enemy while they're already at jumping distance, and then once they are frozen, you will remain in jumping distance, send the bloody bolt their way, and then you activate the Taste of Blood Brutality. Now by far the hardest part of that is doing the blood sacrifice and then immediately freezing them with Frost. Like getting both of those things back to back so that you don't run out of your blood sacrifice time limit, that's kind of difficult. And even more on top of that, you're really counting on the enemy not moving. Because presumably whenever you throw out the Frost freeze, that person's probably already at jumping distance. But they just as easily could have been walking forward or something like that, putting them just out of jumping distance range, and then whenever you go for the bloody bolt, technically they're not in the spot they need to be and the brutality does not happen. And on top of that, since you activated the blood sacrifice first and you still have to go through the whole Frost freezing the enemy animation, you are running out of time on the blood sacrifice very quickly. Like you barely have any time left immediately after the freeze to do the bloody bolt. And on more than a few occasions, whenever I was trying to get this brutality, I would do the bloody bolt inputs, nothing would come out, and I would realize that I had missed my timing and the blood sacrifice had ran out by a fraction of a second before I hit the buttons. So that really sucked whenever you had everything distance-wise just right, but you just weren't fast enough. So yeah, I have ranted on and on about everything that needed to go right and the exact pairing I needed to use in order to get this thing, but ultimately it did all still come down to luck, and this brutality took me hours to get.
You're already in my veins.
Brutality. Nitara wins.
And there it is, the Taste of Blood Brutality. Oh, that took me an eternity to accomplish. Like I said, when I finally got this one, it was just a sigh of relief more than excitement from me. I think I legitimately thought to myself, oh, thank God, it's finally over, I got it. I can finally go to sleep now. It is definitely a brutality that I can look back on more fondly now that it is over, and I'm able to just enjoy the video. Because I definitely was not experiencing that enjoyment whenever I was trying to actually get the damn thing. I was so sick of playing Nitara by the time I finally landed it, and I was actually kind of in shock that it actually landed whenever it did happen. Like, I was at a loss for words. I want to say that I was really happy, but not really. I mean, I wasn't really excited. I was more relieved that I'd finally got the damn brutality over with. Now, something that I did not do that maybe I should have done was look up how other people had landed the brutality, just maybe YouTube it or something, and see if other people had come up with some sort of an idea, a sound tactic in order to get that brutality. That probably would have made things a lot easier on me. But I did not do that, so I went with a strategy that I came up with and was basically just hoping for the best. And after several hours of just brute forcing this tactic, but yeah, so many things had to line up just right for you to get this brutality. It just has way too many conditions for you to even potentially activate the brutality based on just the special move alone. It's not impossible, but if you just throw out the special move by itself, because of how slow it is and everything that you have to set up and get their distance right, it's probably not going to work out. Also, I don't think this brutality works if the enemy is in the air, like if they jumped towards you. I don't know that for a fact. I feel like I tried that and it did not work, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it's probably the case, but there's a chance I'm wrong. But yeah, this one really sucked, and I am very happy that I finally got it and I was able to make this video. I think it was the only brutality that I looked at the conditions for and legitimately thought to myself, I don't know if I can do this one. Even so, some part of me was not satisfied with that thought, and fortunately I just got into the mindset that I don't care if I lose a bunch of times, I am going to do this brutality, or at least I'm going to go for it in every single fight that I am in. And when I say I went for it in every single fight that I was in, I did not care about the circumstances. Even if it made no sense based on the amount of health remaining for me or what the enemy was doing, I was going to go for it. And that basically meant I was just fucking around at the end of every single fight that should have been winnable for me, letting the enemy hang around and giving them plenty of chances to win the fight, because I was not going for the win. I was going for the finisher. Yeah, winning was not the point because there are plenty of fights that I could have won and just didn't because I was going for the brutality instead, just because I wanted the slim chance that I was going to get it and be able to do this video. And yeah, I took a bunch of losses with that mindset, but eventually it finally worked out. Alright though, with that brutality out of the way, I will wrap up this video. I will also be sure to show the Taste of Blood brutality just one more time at the end of this outro so we can enjoy it one more time before parting ways. Just thank you for checking out this video here on my Thor's Entertainment channel. Again, I am Thor, take care, and I will see you next time.
You're already in my veins.
Brutality. Nitara wins.